Russia right now, or Russia is something people say in the subcontinent, Asia. Russia is some people say in Europe, in America. But what is happening right now is more important than talking about the pronunciation. So basically, this is what happened. Russian forces back on the offensive today. As we speak, they're striking Ukraine relentlessly. They launched one of the largest attacks, quote unquote, targeting energy infrastructure across Ukraine in recent month. That one, the one they have launched today, was one of the largest that Volodymyr Zelensky he has never ever seen ever in his life so far of this war. Just want to give you more updates, guys. So what is happening at the moment is that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia used 93 missiles and over 200 drones to take down key power grids. He also said Ukrainian forces managed to shoot down 81 of those missiles using US defense equipment. I don't believe Ukraine was able to do that, but nevertheless, this is coming from Volodymyr Zelensky. Take a listen at this report, then we'll talk more about it.
Now, this was a scene during rush hour in Kyiv as those missiles were being launched. Dozens of people forced to take shelter underground, including children as young as 8 years old. People say they were on their way to school and work when the initial air raid alert was issued. Now,
so this is a Western media reporting. I believe this is from ABC or CNN report. I think CBS News. So this is a Western media. It is important for us to understand the tone of this reporting. Remember what she said just now? 8 years old, they were going about school, minding their own business, and then all of a sudden Russia attacked and they killed all of these people, and these people are scared. But when this exact same thing happened to a country that they don't support, they call it, oh, this is no problem, I mean, normal. And most of the time they completely ignore this kind of reporting about the casualties that they are inflicting on other nations, especially in Gaza, what is happening, also sometimes in Russia too. But this is what we get off the bat, the vibe of this reporting. It is going to be biased, and the tone is already saying that.
This missile strike marks the 11th targeted attack against Ukraine's power grid just this year alone. Officials say the damage is serious and could result in lengthy power cuts across the country. All this as temperatures drop into the most dangerous winter lows. So let's bring in Michael.
Okay, so again, what Russia right now is targeting is very, very simple. They are going after the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, especially this time when the temperature gets really, really low. The obvious question is then why don't we call it a genocide committed by Russia against the Ukrainian? A lot of people will say that, especially the pro-Zionist, the pro-Western people. They will always, oh no, Russia is doing exactly what Israel, the Zionist state, did with Gaza. At least this is what Yoav Gallant said, that we're going to cut off electric supply, energy supply, gas, oil, food to Gaza. And people, even like myself, we said, no, this is genocide. This is intent of genocide. So this is a genocide in and of itself. Now, why don't we call this aggression against Ukrainian people by Russia as genocide? They are taking down all the power grid, all the energy supply. Well, it is because Israel had complete control over the energy, the food, the fuel that goes into Gaza. They have complete control over it. Russia, unlike Israel, they don't. What they're doing is they're destroying this or taking down these energy sectors, this supply of oil and gas and all that in Ukrainian cities. The reason they're doing it is because they're at war with Ukraine and they have to use force. They cannot just sit in their offices and switch it off like Israel can do, literally. Therefore, Russia is not committing what Israel committed in Gaza. They are fighting a war. Israel did not fight a war. They oppressed people. They committed genocide. They're still committing it. I hope that this distinction that I just made will help you understand the situation, because we have to change the narrative that the Western media, they're trying to spread. Just as she said in this video, when she started talking, she immediately pointed out casualties. Innocent civilians are getting hit. What about innocent civilians elsewhere? Maybe in Russia, maybe in other places. But of course, in Gaza, they're facing this kind of casualties every single day. But the Western media, they never spin it that way. So we have to take control of this narrative so that they will not get away with all of these lies. Take a listen a little bit more as to what this expert will say. Wait for it, because the ORESHNIK missile is going to be used very, very soon, according to this report. Let's take a listen.
Persecute. For more on this, he is a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. We understand you are in Ukraine right now. Before we talk about the details of this latest attack, what are you seeing and hearing on the ground there?
Sure, it's good to be back on with you. It's about as bad as it gets. Odessa is one of the biggest cities in Ukraine. It's the southern port city that pretty much feeds the world. And in the area where I live, which is, a strategic area between the Chinese and the Turkish consulates, no electricity all day, no water, no heating. And as you pointed out, the temperatures are going well below freezing. So, and it's interesting because the past few days have been very, very quiet in Ukraine, relatively quiet, no air raid silence pretty much. And we were just speculating last night why, and now we know, is the Russians were waiting for a very bad cold snap and to hit Ukrainians when they're at their most vulnerable, it looks like.
Of course, I mean, Russia, they have the right to defend themselves, their country, and at the same time, this energy cut, this taking down of this energy infrastructure in Ukraine is not something new that Russia is doing at the moment. They have done it in the past. In fact, if you go with Russia on a war, you will see that your energy supplies, for example, gas, natural gas, and other things that you receive from Russia will get cut off. And this is why German economy is suffering. This is why some of the European countries' economy and their energy sector is suffering. Simply because you go to war with a country, you have to face those consequences. So when these people, these Western journalists, they talk about, Ukraine doesn't have energy, they are suffering, and these things are miserable for the Ukrainian people. It was expected. What do you expect when you are at war with a country? At the same time, you will see a lot of the time, these journalists, so-called experts, they will be in Ukraine. Why don't you go to Gaza? Why don't you report from there too? Well, no, we don't want to go to Gaza because, we don't want to expose any truth about the Zionist state. At the same time, we see David Lemmy, the UK, I think, foreign secretary, whatever, he said there is no journalist in Gaza. That was so outrageous. There are a lot of people there who are independent. They're not from the Western media mouthpiece. They're reporting to us what is happening there. So, one hand, the Western countries, they want you to shut up. Literally, they want you to shut up. They want you to plug your ears and close your eyes and not see anything that they do not want you to see. At the same time, they want you to see things what is happening in Ukraine. Oh my God, this is a big headline. I mean, take a look at the rail station. People are panicking and all this. So Western media narrative is just so beyond pathetic.
I want to get to how you're dealing with this, but first I want to get to kind of the logistics of this attack. We know some of the missiles used in this attack were cruise missiles. Just weeks ago, Russia used hypersonic missiles for the first time. What do these stronger weapons mean for Ukraine, and can we expect to see more from the Kremlin, do you think?
Yeah, well, if you were to look at the map of where those missiles and drones went overnight and into the morning, it covers a lot of Ukraine and especially the western part. And according to the UN's IAEA, 5 of Ukraine's 9 nuclear power plants have had to reduce output, and that represents a big chunk of electricity. In fact, it could be that there won't be enough electricity, for example, for Moldova as well. So it's, but in terms of what the Russians sent over, according to the Kiev Post, that was about $1 billion, $1 billion worth of muscle in just a span of a few hours. And finally, if anxieties
weren't... So I just want to make one point before I let him talk about the next point that he has, which will be the ORESHNIK missile itself. Ukraine has nuclear power energy sector, okay? And they're producing a lot of energy. I mean, the entire country, a lot of it depends on this nuclear energy. No problem. you can have it. If you are producing energy, no problem. But when Iran does it for peaceful purposes, the West has big problem. They sanction Iran. So why they don't sanction Ukraine for using nuclear source for this energy? I don't know. But any country, whoever will use a nuclear power energy or whatever they call it by EA, they have no problem. But the problem arises when Iran does it. The problem arises when Russia does it. When when any country that they don't support, that's when the problem is. Take a listen at what he says about this ORESHNIK missile.
Weren't high enough. The Financial Times, quoting U.S. National Security Council sources, say the Russians are getting ready to fire some of those big supersonic, hypersonic ORESHNIK missiles over the weekend.
And now this all comes about a month before President-elect Trump takes over the White House. Are there concerns that this war will shift drastically once the president-elect is officially sworn in?
Absolutely. Ukrainians are huge news consumers, and they know what's going on around the world. And they just saw the punch in the gut taken by Canada, where I happen to be from, with Trump's threat to slam 25% tariffs on everything there. And that's to the U.S. as supposedly best friend. So the fear here is if they can do that to Canada, imagine how they're going to treat Ukraine. The feeling here is that Mr. Trump is very transactional. There's really no floor to his subservience to Mr. Putin. And in his hurry to do a deal with Mr. Putin, Ukraine will not end up on the good side of that.
Okay, so again, ORESHNIK is coming this weekend. That's what he said. And we already know that Belarus, the government has a ORESHNIK missile system that he got from Russia. Russia doesn't have any problem giving this kind of missile to Belarus because, again, Poland could attack Belarus or NATO can attack Belarus, so they have the right to defend themselves too. What we understand from all of these things, guys, is not stopping. It's not abating. The attack in Ukraine by Russia is increasing by day. And if Russia cannot win this war, if they cannot subdue Ukraine and Zelensky's government by this winter, I doubt they will be able to do so after the winter. And so they are ramping things up. And for Russia, it is looking very promising because if they can afford it to strike Ukraine with the maximum force and power and make them give up their desire and dreams to join NATO, yeah, so be it. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. I have some comments here. Thank you guys for joining. I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful